on their toes about this. As Scott pointed out, I'm also a small business owner in town. And when I go, and I've thought about it, we've taken a lot of precautions at my business. We're constantly sanitizing, washing hands. Here's what I like to stress, because this is how I thought about it for myself. I would rather have a consistent group, consistent base or flow of customers coming to my business than trying to get everything at one time. What I'm saying is we're in the middle of a pandemic. What we do now for the next few months is going to determine how bad this gets. Right now, we have no cases locally. As far as we know, we don't have it in New Smyrna. So I think we need to be incredibly cautious. So what I'm saying with my business is, the worst thing that can happen to me is a pandemic that explodes and I have no business. If I have to shut down because the community is full of this and there's no workers and I have no revenue, that's what concerns me the most as a business owner. It is not, this is my busiest month, how can I get as much as I can as fast as I can? It is about, look, we have something truly unique and different that has happened here. And depending on how we play our cards, it's the old phrase, can you see the forest through the trees? I urge people to look long-term. I may not have the best March or the best April that I've had, but at least I'm open, money's coming in, I'm paying my bills, I'm keeping people employed, and I'm making some money. Keep that in mind as we go through this process to make very important decisions about what role we here on the commission and we as citizens and we as private business owners are gonna play in this pandemic. So the recommendations I'm gonna make are a lot to do with how I would approach my own business. I am not gonna tell someone they should close their business down, but we certainly do not wanna get to a point like Italy is at, where the government has essentially shut down the entire country. So let's use some common sense, let's not get too far outside the lanes and keep in perspective what's going on here. And as long as we do that and keep a level head and make good decisions, I think that we can come out on the other side of this overall pretty good. Now, what that means for specifics, I think we err on the side of caution. I'm not inclined to tell private businesses at this point what they can and can't do. I'm inclined to support city-sponsored or large events in city buildings to be postponed. However, because there's nothing going on right now and it's not in a sense of extreme emergency in our community, we can always come back to an emergency meeting and shut something down more aggressively. So I'm a little flexible on this. I don't think we need to panic. There's certain things that are happening this weekend and over this next week. And I think it's Elaine brought up, well, what are we gonna classify as a large gathering? That's difficult for us to do. And it's very arbitrary for us to make that decision. So that I'm a little concerned about you wanting us to do that because we don't have any more wisdom than you do, whether it's 250, 500, 2,000. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm willing to discuss it in more detail.
I think very, very well said. Yeah, and certainly we can come back. I mean, we can. In fact, one of the things I was going to suggest for consideration is, do we want to go ahead and schedule another one of these so it doesn't have to have that emergency title or feel to it, just to kind of pull away from it feeling like we're adding to again the panic, but knowing that we probably should stay on top of this and just address it on an ongoing basis, on a recurring basis.
I I think with us having assessment meetings at least once a week
Yeah.
would be a pretty good idea.
Yeah, so, Commissioner Hartman, you haven't spoken yet on this, what are your thoughts?
My understanding of this is just another version of a flu. Just kind of, it actually affects the elderly.
Hang on, let the commissioner speak, and then let whoever speaks.
Because it's flu-like symptoms, and so it's a version of the flu, is that correct?
Doctor, go ahead. That's what you're asking.
So
Yes.
influenza virus is a different type of virus. They're
Right.
both viral illnesses. This is a coronavirus strain that's a more virulent strain than the typical coronavirus that we see that causes normal upper respiratory infections
Right.
and things like that. So is it affecting the same kind of populations, the elderly, people who are more at risk? Yes. Flu is different, young persons and pregnant people are also at high risk. The difference with flu and this virus as well is that flu severity of illness is complicated by superimposed bacterial infections like pneumonias and other things, and those tend to be the patients that don't fare very well. With the coronavirus, there's not really secondary infections. It's primarily just this virus that's causing all of these issues. The other difference is in the flu, the main respiratory issues with bronchitis, things like that, it doesn't cause that ARDS, that adult respiratory distress syndrome that causes all those inflammatory markers in the lungs to get so inflamed. People with ARDS typically require mechanical ventilation, a breathing tube. That's not usually the case with bacterial pneumonia on top of flu. So the respiratory severity seems to be a little bit higher.
All right. So, and I think what we've done and demonstrated thus far is we've taken added precautions. We've given people as much information as we can. I think that us as a city can certainly control what we do at our events. But at this time, I'm inclined to let those other groups be the ones to decide on what they want to do. What I read the other day was that all 3 cases were related to outside travel, so nothing has been a cross-contamination or a cross-contact type of a disease. So I'd be more inclined to control what we can control. Ask those other vendors out there, businesses, to use the best common practices that we know of, and to use their better common sense. We're all adults about this, and certainly I think we should be briefed. And if something else pops up, then we certainly can take a further action at that time. But it's surprising me that Orange County's had no reported cases yet. You know, and they have one of the busiest airports in the country, so that was kind of surprising to me when I read all the statistics. So, I mean, you know, most everybody's taking a 2-week period. I see some things going on for the next 2 weeks, but I certainly think that we can, during our next meeting or before the next meeting, we could have another update on where we're gonna go. Maybe a pre-meeting, or if something happens, maybe we can meet again, but I'm inclined to let the businesses use their own best judgment.
Okay. So one of the concerns that I've heard and read is when you look at other places like Italy, Commissioner McGurk mentioned, and the doctor mentioned earlier, this has such there's a long time before this can present symptoms where it can still be passed. Is that an accurate statement? So the concern is that you made a comment, there's no, you know, the 3 cases here that have just been reported, you know, all are kind of related to this one Nile cruise type thing. The problem is, you know, my concern, and again, what I think others are concerned on is, we don't know yet. It can be 14 days before we know the cases here. And when you look at some of the data that came out of Italy and China, you had a lot of spread kind of before they started taking measures like what we're talking about here and like what's happening here. And you know, I also, you talk about the business community and, you know, it's, for those that wanna believe this is all, you know, blown out of proportion, when you start seeing entities like the NBA and Disney, I mean, Disney has shareholders to answer to, and they have really, really smart people on staff making these decisions with, you know, literally millions of dollars a day in revenue at stake. And so for them to come out and do, you know, the elements, and I know that's all different scale as far as the exposure potential, but, you know, this is serious. I mean, this is not, for those kind of entities to be taken serious tells me it's something that is something to be taken serious. So, all right, so we need some clarity. I've heard, I think we heard some support from Commissioner McGurk on, I don't know if it works in anyone's mouth, but I'm trying to find if we had any kind of middle ground on what actions we take today from, let's break it down this way if we can. Let's just create some buckets here. So we've got some city meetings. When I say city meetings, things like the Leisure Activities Board, the Economic Development Advisory had started been canceled, citizen code enforcement, etc. My suggestion would be, and I don't think there's any pressing noticed business at those meetings. My suggestion or thought would be, let's cancel those. If there's no pressing notice business at those, I would say we could cancel those through the month of March at a minimum, and then readdress at our next commission meeting. Let's just take it chunk by chunk. What are the commission thoughts on that suggestion?
I agree completely.
No problem.
Mr. Hartman?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. And, Carrie, do we need to, so we don't take formal motions on those kind of things, or can we just? Okay. Alright, so let's take a formal motion on that to just cancel, did you have additional comments on that?
No, I would make the motion.
Okay, so motion to, I wanna be careful of wording, but I think canceling, because we're not postponing, we're gonna just, we'll pick them up in April. So we're gonna cancel everything except for the regular scheduled city commission meeting on March 24th. At this time, all other meetings for the month of March, city meetings will be canceled at this time. That's your motion?
Yes.
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
The special magistrate hearing,